Welcome back. My name is Lolly Pop. Today we're going to discuss Season 20, Episode 9 of Sister Wives. The episode description says it's an awkward final showdown at Coyote Pass with Kody, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri. Janelle takes a trip to New Orleans and lets loose with girlfriends to celebrate, and Kody considers finding a therapist to help repair relationships with his children. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Sister Wives, a red flag rewatch. This is the podcast for disenchanted fans of Sister Wives, fans who fell in love with the Brown family, watched their precious kids grow up, and became enchanted with all the love, only to be told it was all a lie. Nothing was as it seemed. We were bamboozled, fooled, duped, tricked, conned, swindled, hoodwinked. What did we miss? Where did it go wrong? Come help me find out as we watch from the beginning. All right, so before we get into it, I talked about all these podcasts that Kody is doing with Special Forces, and some of the takeaways I took from those podcasts were that Kody didn't mean anything he told the drill sergeants on Special Forces. Maybe not all of us, but some of us had a ray of hope when he said that I'm the common denominator, I'm what's wrong, and the DS told him it's your fault, and he said, I know. And then he got on all these podcasts and said, I'm not going to take accountability for all of it. So he just backtracked on all the progress that he made. I was so disappointed. I just wanted to throw something at my TV. And then he lies and he says that all of his children turned against him after the divorces. And all of us in the Sister Wives universe know that's not true. Janelle left him because he was horrible to her kids. I mean, they act like we don't see all this. He acts like he can just say anything. And I guess for people that are not in the Sister Wives universe, he's probably hoping maybe he can sway some thoughts for people who don't know. But for us that know, we know the true story. And it's very frustrating when he starts spouting lies. There was a few gross things he said, like he didn't take deodorant to Special Forces because he didn't know if he could take showers or not. And that is so backwards. If you don't know if you can take showers or not, you take more deodorant. But he didn't take any deodorant. Can you imagine? Oh, my Lord, he must have stunk. He said he had to borrow somebody's deodorant. I hope that was a spray deodorant. And one of the rules on Special Forces is you're not supposed to go to the bathroom by yourself at night. So he said he would pee in a bottle or he would pee out the tent's vent holes. So he would pee out the vent holes of the tents. I mean, this man, he let a few things slip. He said 2 of his wives obtained spiritual releases from the church. Let it slip that Janelle did that because now at the end of this episode, it's telling us that she's thinking about getting a spiritual release. So now we know that she did. So I wonder if he got in trouble for spilling information beforehand. Oh, his hair was different. And I can't really tell if he pinned his hair back. It's no longer blonde. Like he cut all the blonde out of it. And it looks like he cut some length off the back. He's still got those funky 2 little tendrils in the front that he's holding on to for dear life. He said that he didn't realize that he was so quirky. And I've discussed this with y'all before, but Kody is like a big fish in a little pond when he was in Utah and these polygamous communities because he was handsome. Now, his attitude makes him ugly. He was converted from the LDS church, which means he was new blood, so he wasn't related to everybody. He's so used to everybody just hanging off his every word. And so it was good that he went and did Special Forces because now he's like a small fish in a big old ocean, and he realizes that some people don't care about what he looks like or what he has to say. And when he walks in a room and just interrupts conversations, that can be annoying. And he can be annoying. So when you go from a world of everybody hanging off your every word and cleaning up the house for you and making food you like and vying for your attention down to Special Forces where nobody knows where you come from and you're just annoying, I'm sure that was a huge culture shock. Huge culture shock. He didn't learn a thing. These DS drill sergeants that are on there, they are real military men, the best of the best. And they looked at Kody and said, you are wrong. Looked him right in the eyeballs and said, you are wrong. He still didn't learn anything. I mean, what are we going to do? We're not going to do anything. He's never going to learn. He's never going to learn. But he did say that he had undiagnosed ADHD. He was not diagnosed with ADHD at that time. And he brought a bunch of supplements and nootropics and caffeine and vitamin D, and he had mouth tape to sleep with at night, and he had silk scrunchies for his hair. I mean, this man's high maintenance. But The latest thing is that another dinner they had, Brianna Chicken Fry, which is one of the main characters on Special Forces, she asked Kody where Robyn was, and Kody made the comment, Robyn would murder you if she came. And so Brianna took that personally, and she's talking about it. I don't know that Robyn said that. That was just his quirkiness he's talking about. He just has no social skills. Kim and Brianna had a little bit of strife while they were on the show, and maybe Robyn may have said something about that. But I don't believe that Robyn said that. I think he's just tactless. You know, he doesn't know how to talk to people. I think he just says the wrong thing. That whole situation is probably being blown out of proportion, but he shouldn't have said it, but he said it. And so Brianna got upset about it. I don't think her and Robyn have any problems. Now, they might. I don't know. Who knows what Kody went home and told Robyn happened while he was there. She might have a problem with Brianna. I don't know. But I'll tell you this, Brianna Chicken Fry and Robyn Brown in a wrestling ring, I know who I'd put my money on. I know who would win, and it would not be Robyn. So I would like to see that fight go down. I don't think it would last very long, but can you imagine? And also, another thing that had come to mind is that I'm sure Robyn is petrified about these interviews because Kody has a mouth on him, and he will just say whatever pops in his head. And she's probably sitting at home praying to baby Jesus that he doesn't say anything crazy. Please don't let this man say any crazy crap while he's on this TV. He is just a wild card. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth. And she is praying all the time. Please don't let him say something bad, because he'll just say anything. But anyway, it starts out, Kody's talking, and he says, you know, we just got to Kody Pass, and Meri's in her car, and Janelle's in her car, and Robyn and I are sitting in our car. And, well, it's just like, what should we do? And Janelle says, Kody and Robyn have just rolled up. I don't want to get out and make small talk. And Meri says, they're just sitting there like, I don't know what we're waiting for. We already had to wait for them for an hour. An hour. Can you imagine? Meri came from Parowan. Janelle came from 3,000 miles away. And why did Justin show up after? Or maybe they told Justin to come a little later so they could film them talking. And the talking never happened. And so that's why they were all just sitting around waiting for Justin. Maybe that's why Kody and Robyn were late, because they weren't going to come until Justin came, because they didn't want to talk to Janelle and Meri. I don't know. I like to have theories. And half the time my theories are true. The other half, they're not. But that's my theory. That's what I'm going to go with. I've decided right now that production said we're gonna meet here. Y'all are going to talk, stand in a circle and talk for about an hour. We're going to get some good footage of that. And then we're going to get Justin to come in, and then he's going to say his piece. And I bet you Kody and Robyn were like, yeah, we're not coming until Justin comes. They decided they didn't want to talk to them women. That's my theory. That's my theory. Take it or leave it. And Robyn says, I kind of hope that we would be like getting out and saying, hello, everybody. I mean, Meri and Janelle are staying in their cars. So I'm like, okay. And Kody says it feels like an old Western standoff at Coyote Pass. It's just ridiculous. And then he whistles the standoff tune. And then he does a bad Western expression. And he says, it's just so weird. Robyn says, Kody told me that Janelle was giving him pressure to sell the property out from under Meri. And Kody said, Janelle is like, hey, listen, we need to sell this because I'm afraid we're losing the buyer. And I'm like, okay, you know, Janelle has always kind of been my financial advisor, but she's an ex-wife now. And Janelle says, I was waiting on Meri. She kept saying she was going to get the paperwork done, and the time was ticking. And I'm like, I'm getting stressed about it. We could have forced the sale on the piece that Meri's owned. Like, I mean, he could have forced the sale on everything. And Robyn says, so this has been important to me to make sure that everybody was treated fairly in the situation. So yeah, I fought him. I had some pretty big fights with him about it. And they're getting out of the car, and it's so weird. I don't know if y'all noticed, but all of their pants are too tight. Like, they're all wearing the slim fit pants, and every one of them, when they get out of the car, they all lean over and they pull the legs down on their pants. Every single one of them. Kody did it. Meri did it. Janelle did it. Like, why don't I wear some looser pants? What are you doing here? That was odd. And of course, Kody has sunglasses on his head and gloves. And I think he's a real baby about being cold. I don't think he likes to be cold, because you remember at McKelty's wedding and it was cold and he was getting mad because McKelty wanted to go outside and take pictures. He goes, I think this is a bad idea. It is freezing out there. I don't think he likes to be cold. I think he gets angry when he gets cold. And that was one of his complaints about growing up on a ranch was it was always cold. It was just terribly cold. And remember, he wanted his dad to buy him a Letterman jacket, but he didn't. He bought him a regular jacket because he was always complaining about being cold. I don't know if he thinks those gloves make him look manly. On Special Forces, he didn't take a shower. That's probably because there wasn't any hot water. That's my theory, that he didn't want to take a shower because the water wasn't hot. And so that's my new theory. I got another theory. He didn't take a shower because I bet you that water was just plain old water from a hose. But he was probably too good to take a shower that wasn't warm and long. You know, they say he takes warm, long showers. Remember when they lived in Lehigh and he had to take a shower in Meri's bathroom because it was the cleanest? But anyway, so Justin's just talking to Kody and Robyn, and he's talking about leaving the house and it's a little cooler up here. And they're talking about the weather. And Meri says they just stayed over there having this little private conversation. And we were like, hi, we're over here. That was kind of weird to me. Janelle said, I'm glad I'm here with Meri. It would be really awkward if I was here by myself. Justin finally walks over to him and says, hey guys, how you doing? I'm Justin Bemis. On the podcast, they're calling him Justin Beavis and Butthead. So his name is Justin Bemis. And he said, thanks for having me. Kody said, looks like it's all coming together. And then they just kind of stand there in silence. And Meri says, I kept looking at Robyn and Kody, and specifically Robyn, like I wanted to catch her eye and just smile at her and just put out a gesture of, hey, I'm cool. And you can see on camera, like even in the intro picture, it's showing Meri looking right at them, right at them. Robyn comes and she says, I looked at Meri several times. I never saw her look at me. I guess I just need to give her space. She is so frustrating. And Kody says, Janelle did make some eye contact with me. Meri never made eye contact with me that I recall. Meri's probably going to say Kody never made eye contact with me. I know Meri. And then he's talking about this looks like our last visit with the place. We basically all said our goodbyes. We got some good memories here, a lot of good stuff. When we first bought the place, we got here, my kids started jumping in skinny dipping. And I told y'all last episode, he needs to stop saying skinny dipping. Skinny dipping is full blown naked. Nobody was naked. The girls were fully dressed. The boys had boxer shorts on, and he had those tight black underwear things flexing his muscles with those white pasty legs. I mean, I don't know why he keeps talking about that. And how often did that happen? He says, they're out there in their skivvies. I just figured I'd join them. So the pond was almost full when we came. And we know that pond is not a pond. It's a drainage ditch where water from the land drains into it so the land doesn't flood. The water from the land that contains cow poop and prairie dog plague. So I don't know why you're so excited about this drainage ditch. And according to Special Forces, he knows irrigation. They were talking on some podcasts and they said that never say, this is where Meri and I officially separated. This is where Christine realized she didn't want to be in the marriage anymore. Stood up and ran off because she realized that they weren't going to move back to Utah. And Meri told her, just look at the mountains, look at the mountains. I mean, and this is where they had that horrible conversation with Gabe, and Gabe started crying. And Kody just stood there looking at him. You know, that was horrible. I hated that conversation. All of that happened on this land too, but they don't talk about that. He says, we were very idealistic. We thought this would work out. And Janelle said, there's definitely some emotional attachment here. Garrison took so many photos out here of the night sky. And she spent more time on that land than all of them. You know, she's the one that had the RV out there for months. Justin says, we're ready to go. I got some stuff just to go over with you guys, just as far as making sure everything's spelt right and all the deeds are printed out and ready to go. Janelle says the money will go a long way toward my new project. Addison's like, good. Addison says, so if you guys want to head around and come around and see if we can double check the paperwork, this is everything you said, right? And nobody's signing nothing. And I think everything has already been done. You know what I mean? Because Meri is already remodeling her house. I think they've already gotten their money. This is just all for TLC, because every bit of this could have been done through a Zoom call and e-signing things and getting the notary from wherever they were. And there was no reason they had to all be standing on the land that they were selling. Then Janelle says, yeah, I just want to double check it just because, you know. And she says, I'm glad it's done. One chapter closed. And then Justin says, all right. So he's looking around at these crazy people. And he's like, this is awkward as hell. I'm leaving. And in the back of his truck is some sort of ATV. So I wondered if he thought he was going to go riding. And where is the champagne that we were supposed to be popping? So he was like, yeah, I'm out of here. Anyway, he says, it's been real, brother. Thank you so much. And he gives Robyn a hug. It's nice seeing you. Nice meeting you for the first time. He's talking to Janelle and Meri. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. And Kody and Robyn immediately turn around and walk back to their car. They didn't say hello. They did not say goodbye. They just immediately turned around and went back to the car. And the whole time, Meri is standing off to the side and she is staring right at them the whole time. Janelle's looking right at them and they're not looking at them. And Meri says, like, they didn't even say hi and they didn't even say bye. It was like, okay, am I invisible to you? And Janelle says, I think Robyn felt like she was going to get persecuted or attacked or something. And I'm like, no, we can be adults here. But whatever. It was super awkward, super awkward. Robyn starts to stutter. She's like in a talking head on the couch and she goes, I didn't think I don't really endorse fakeness. And like, okay, I wasn't gonna pretend like everything's okay when it's not. That's what you do all the time. You pretend all the time that everything's okay when it's not. She didn't know what to say because she knew she looked like an idiot. And Kody says, yeah, Robyn hates girl games. Yeah, and she reads nuance way different than me. If Robyn hates girl games, she needs to quit playing them. If she reads nuance way different than you, then she's probably wrong. She's probably feeding you stuff to make you think that there's something there when there's not. Kody says, Coyote Pass from beginning to end, its inception, the purchase of it, and everything has been complicated and messy from day one. It's finally done. Everybody's paid. Everybody can move on now. We have finally cut off these financial ties, and I'm ashamed that it went so badly through the entire thing. Robyn says, the deal's done. This is a sad day. I mean, like, we're done, and I don't feel like celebrating. The toxicity at Coyote Pass after everybody has been paid was just too much. We should have pulled out the champagne with Justin, but we're all still sort of sore. The wounds were still open. So I don't understand her way of thinking here, like the toxicity. And she and Kody are the ones not looking at everybody. And she and Kody are the ones that are an hour late. And she and Kody are the ones that didn't get out of their car. And they're talking about the toxicity. When Janelle and Meri had already gotten out of the car and talked and hugged and waited there a few minutes in the cold rain, waiting for your asses, and you're saying that they're toxic. She's so delusional. Christine says, so I heard that Coyote Pass is now sold. Kody and Robyn, they're all done with it. So all of that drama that happened for all those years, I wasn't involved with it at all. I am so glad that I got out of that whole Coyote Pass thing when I left Kody. Look, I have no idea how much money they got for the property. No idea how much each of them made. And frankly, I don't care. Even if it was a better deal than I got when I sold my house, I really don't care. Oh my gosh, it's not worth any amount of money. None. And she's right. She did come out on the better end of all that. And it shows her and David, and they're walking into a spa. She says, I told David, I said, look, why don't we just have like a spa thing, maybe pedicures or something? That something led to a facial. David walks in the room. He's like, wait a minute, this is laying down. I thought a facial was like sitting up. I didn't know this was going to be like getting naked and stuff. You guys trapped me into something here. And so he has to take off his shirt. He doesn't have to get totally naked. He just has to take off his shirt. Because when they do the facials, they rub your neck and they rub your shoulders. I've only had 2 in my life, but it was really nice. Christine says, he calls it being tricked. I call it gradual overwhelming. That's all. I told him we're going to go to one movie and we ended up going to another movie completely. And then like parties, I say they're smaller than they actually are, but also I don't always know how many people are going to be there either. And then he thinks it's being trapped or tricked. He calls it gradual overwhelming. And that's a good way to put it. David's laying there and he goes, well, I'm not really uncomfortable. This is nice. Do you want to come join me? And Christine says, I have my own bed. I'll stay right here. And Christine says, I'm a big fan of monogamy. I love it. I love that David's around all the time. I was so nervous at first before we moved in together. The thought of having a guy around all the time. I was like, what am I going to do with him? I have no idea. But no, it's totally easy. He's wonderful. It goes back over to Meri, and Meri says, "So the renovations have been going on here at the house for a few months now. Things are moving along. At this point, I'm planning on eventually turning it into more of an event space. B&B is done. That's over. It's gone. But the house will never leave. It will stay in my family. I will make sure of that." And it shows them in an empty room full of walls that are being redone. And she says, before we fix the walls or they fix the walls, I want to write words on it. Words or quote or affirmations and whatever you want. I'm excited. And so they're going around the room and they're writing words of aspirations on the wall. And she says, "I feel like the property was that last tie, the last anchor that is now dropped and released. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to worry about the property. I don't have to worry about the family except for when I want to. It's just nice not to have to worry about the property at Kody Pass anymore." She writes on the wall, "May the ceiling above us never fall in and those gathered beneath it never fall out." So that's sweet. I like that. Meri says, "Now that everything's done with the property and it was a weird situation, with seeing everybody, I definitely want to share this information with Amber because I think she'd get a kick out of it." And Amber says, "I want to update. Are you at peace now that it's all worked out with Kody Pass?" And Meri says, "I'm at peace with the fact that it's been worked out. But it was so weird. Like, I kind of figured it probably would be, but I had really high hopes it would be a good thing." She said, "He did not look at me once. There was one time I thought we might have caught eyes like in passing really quick, but he never looked at me. It was the dumbest thing. We have this history. We should be able to interact and be decent with each other. I'm just really, really enjoying this phase of my life now that the property's sold. I'm kind of talking about dating a little bit." Goes over to Janelle, and this is so cute. This is what the future sister wives look like. They're doing restaurant. They're playing this restaurant game with Evie, and she's going around taking the family's orders. And Maddie says that the restaurant's upstairs in your room, so you take our orders and you go up there and make our orders and bring them back down to us. And Evie asks Janelle, "What would you like?" Janelle says, "I would like a glass of water with no ice, room temperature, and bring me a whole lemon that I can slice myself and a knife that I can cut them myself." And Evie's looking at her like, "What?" And Janelle cackles. That's how you know she really thinks it's funny. And she goes, "It's a joke. It's a joke that you wouldn't understand. I'm sorry. Just bring me a glass of water with no ice." And then in Talking Heads, she says Kody discovered water with lemon in it and that warm water really works better for his digestion. So whenever we used to go somewhere, he'd always ask the waiter for room temperature or warm water and a whole lemon. He wanted to cut his own lemon. Look, he tipped well, and people were usually okay to accommodate him. Kody got into this warm water with lemon in it. And the first thing I want to say about that is, okay, I can understand that he enjoyed that. But could that be something he just did at the house? Did he have to put everybody through that? The waiter, the people he's with? Could he just done that at the house? Did he have to do that every time he went to a restaurant? That seems like you're just putting a lot of people out. It's not really that important that you do it 100% of the time. But there is something to warm water and lemon. I'm sure the reason he wanted to slice it himself is because I was reading up on it and said 2007 there was a study done and 70% of lemon slices from restaurants had microbial growth, E. coli bacteria, and other microbes. That was because people were handling them with their bare hands. They were cutting them on dirty cutting boards that was used to cut other food. The rinds are real porous and can hold a lot of bacteria. And then the lemons sit at room temperature, which isn't good for a long time. So it promotes a lot of bacterial growth. So if you had a whole lemon and you were able to clean it up yourself with a clean knife and cut it on a clean surface, the chances of being exposed to that microbial growth is a lot less. So that's probably why he did it that way. And they say lemon water promotes stomach acid and bowels, which relaxes your intestines and does promote better digestion. But again, why are you putting everybody around you through this? Why don't you just drink some warm water and just do all that other crap at the house? But it also says it's strongly encouraged that if you do drink this, you drink it through a straw to protect your teeth enamel. And you should always rinse your teeth after drinking lemon water because it will eat away at your teeth, which Kody knows now is a problem for this special water. It reminds me of when him and Janelle had that fight, and they're in the midst of cussing each other out. I mean, F bombs are dropping, it is bad. And he walks into Janelle's kitchen and he pours himself a glass of warm water and he drinks that before he leaves. Nobody really talks about that, but that was always so odd to me. I mean, like, think about if you're in a huge argument with a person, do you stop to go get something to drink? I think that is really telling of how narcissistic and selfish he is because the whole argument wasn't as important as him going to get a warm glass of water before he left. That was weird to me. Like, have you ever been in the midst of a huge argument and stopped and went and got you something to drink and came back? Did anybody else notice that? I don't know. I'm talking a lot tonight. I'm sorry. Janelle's talking. She says, so I have to tell you, I went out on the property. It was so awkward. And she said, Robyn didn't even say anything. Maddie says, to you at all? Or Meri at all? And she says, no. Maddie says, they didn't say hi or hey. And Janelle says, no, no. Maddie says, so you didn't even exist? Janelle's like, no, no. We just all got there and Justin started talking and then Kody and Justin started talking. Meri and I just kind of stood there like props. It was kind of weird. It was weird. I'm like really glad it's over. I'm glad it's done. I no longer have to think about Kody Brown. He doesn't have any hold over me. This is done. This chapter's closed. And then she goes on to talk about my girlfriends and I wanted to go travel. We're going to go down to New Orleans because why not? It goes back to Christine and David. Christine says, how you feeling, babe? Are you sleeping? And David is fake snoring. He goes, no, never, not me. He says, you know me, once I lay down, I'm gone. Me too, David. Me too. I could lay on the floor and take a nap at any time. And Christine said, 7 seconds is your record. Danielle told me the other day I was a terrible monogamist. She was like, how independent were you before? And David's like, yeah, you need to work on communicating a lot of things. It's a whole new world. And Christine says, so Danielle's my sister. She's always had good advice. She just looked at me. She goes, you're a terrible monogamist because you just take over a house. And she's right. I take over everything. And that's hard. Being married, you work at being monogamous. I'm just new to this whole monogamy thing. It's just different than polygamy. It's very different from being single. It really is. It's all about having a partner and learning how to rely on somebody else. It's just a whole new thing to figure out. And Janelle says, I wondered if I could live monogamy after living in a plural family, but I've had so much independence and so much freedom. I mean, maybe, I don't know. David says to Christine, no, you're doing good. You're figuring it out. So something comes along, we address it and we figure it out. And Christine says, I appreciate your patience. It's all good. And then I walk in the room and they put this little thing around David's head. And what that's supposed to do is protect your hair. And David ain't got no hair, but they put that thing around his head. And I'm thinking maybe it helped with the ears too. I'm not sure. Just to keep the stuff out of your ears. And he says, oh no, whoa, I got a thing on my head. And the girl that's working on him says, you look like a pretty princess. And he says, a pretty princess? And she says, yes. And Christine says, David gives and gives and gives all the time. He gives all day at work. He fixes people's problems all day, every day. At the end of the day, he deserves to be pampered. And David says, I feel like $1 million already. And I'm proud of him for having an open mind and being open to this because a lot of men are like, I'm not doing that. But you know, it does feel good. It makes your skin feel better. It's healthy for you. You should do it. And they're starting to put this jelly seaweed mask on his face, you know, like this green gooky stuff. She tells David, thank you for coming with me. And David says, you're welcome. It's a fun date, but you owe me though. And Janelle says, so I'm in New Orleans today. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. I kept saying New Orleans. I don't think that's right. I've been to New Orleans a good many times just because I live so close to there. But generally, a lot of people call it New Orleans. You don't say New Orleans. It's New Orleans. So anyway, she says, I'm here. I have my girlfriends. It's really hard for us to get together because everybody's busy with their lives. But we all decided to take a few days and meet here in New Orleans. So Coyote Pass is done. The weight is off my shoulders. I got a little bit of cash in my pocket. I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with my girlfriends, explore all the things I've never done. And it shows her friends. Yeah, we're Janelle's friend group that like to get her out and get her to do fun stuff, kind of break her out of her shell, have a little fun. We've supported her no matter what she wanted to do because we've heard her talk about living polygamy again. like it's an open option. Her friend Alice says, I think Janelle definitely should get out and date and start opening her heart. I feel like she went through a lot of hits, and I think that she should have like a romantic kind of situation. I don't know if Janelle is going to need a wing woman on this trip, but if the perfect man presents himself, I'm definitely going to take the opportunity to introduce him. And Janelle says, what I like is they push my boundaries a little bit. I grew up so conservatively and I got married young. I just never done that before. And they're trying gator on a stick. One of the friends asked, is this gator fried or grilled? I have no idea. And they say it's probably fried. Can we please have it well done? So I've only tried alligator once or twice. And it's not bad. It tastes like chicken, really. It's not bad. Alligators are very abundant in Louisiana. And the reason they're hunted is because there's way too many of them. And so if you can use the meat, you can do that. I didn't mind eating it. It was fine. Janelle says, I know that my girlfriends would love for me to really let my hair down. I'm going to take baby steps. One friend said, I'm not mad about it. It's kind of spicy. It's interesting. And Janelle says, it's got a really different aftertaste. It's a little greasy, but it's good. And then they pull out some bugs. And what it is it's cooked bugs that are coated in chocolate. And they say, okay, we got dark chocolate crickets. And Janelle says, I'm open to new stuff. And she's like, these are real bugs. It looks like the things in the corner of your bathroom or something. No, that's so gross. And Janelle tastes it and she makes the strangest face like, ugh. She says the chocolate's okay though. She says a couple of times it's like the bugs in the corner of your bathroom. And I know exactly what she's talking about. And I don't know if maybe it's a Southern thing, but here in the South, we've got a lot of bugs. And because we've got a lot of humidity, we got a lot of heat, it doesn't get cold and rarely ever freezes. And so any eggs or larvae or anything that the bugs are producing never are fully killed or die out. They just keep going and going and going. And they're always kind of looking for water. And so in your bathroom is where it's the most humid and where there's abundant water and they can come up the drain pipes. Every time I go around and clean the floors, what I do is I have like this vacuum. And I just go around. There's usually a lot of little dried up bugs in the corners. You never really see live bugs in my house, but you do see those little dry bugs. And that's just where they just got in. They're just looking for water. And so I know what she's talking about. I don't think Janelle is a dirty person. She might be. I don't know. But she's talking about what's in the corner of the bathroom, little dry bugs that have come in looking for water. And there is a museum in New Orleans that is a bug museum, and they have this whole buffet where you can try bugs. And it's just more of a dare. It's just something fun to say that you did. And I did try when I went down there with the kids. The kids wouldn't try it, but I did try a cricket. And the way I would explain it, it's almost like you're eating a dry leaf. It has no taste to it. The only thing you can really taste is whatever flavoring they put on it. It wasn't horrible. And I didn't really gag. There's not much taste to it. And the thing about crickets is that in a lot of countries, eating crickets is very common, very common. This is in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and it's very common to eat crickets. In Thailand, there are street stalls that sell crickets. In Mexico, there's something called chapulines, chapulines, which are grasshoppers, and they eat those. That's a popular snack. And some studies have shown that crickets have more protein than goat, chicken, or pork. And that they have been grinding up crickets for protein. They have a higher percentage of protein than most meats. So it's like a ready-made source of protein. And my husband and I like to watch Naked and Afraid, and they're always eating crickets. So maybe we don't need to judge on this cricket thing. I don't want to actively go and pursue a cricket, but it's nice to know in a pinch, to have this information. It also says that crickets promote gut health and reduces inflammatory gut conditions. So I think somebody should tell Kody about this. I bet he would be interested to have this information. But after it's all over, Janelle's on the couch and she says, like, no, no, nope, 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 nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times she says no or nope. She says, like, none of the sister wives would have been up for bugs. I can pretty much guarantee that. So my friends are troopers, man. We're like, we're going to do it. Like, I don't think any of my sister wives would have eaten bugs. They're out sitting outside a restaurant and they are getting hurricanes. And I've never had a hurricane, but they are pretty popular drinks. And it has 2 ounces of light rum, 2 ounces of dark rum, 2 ounces of passion fruit, an ounce of orange juice, and half an ounce of lime juice. And you put cherries and orange slices in it. And the reason they call it a hurricane is because it resembles a hurricane lamp. Remember those old-timey hurricane lamps? And that's why they call it a hurricane. But that sounds good. Passion fruit juice, orange juice, rum. That sounds good. And she says when I was on trips with my sister wives, it was a very different relationships than my girlfriends. My friends are all easygoing. Nobody has to control the schedule. Nobody has to be the boss. I was always busy with my kids. I was just involved with the family. Or before that, I lived so secretly. I didn't really have an option of making a lot of girlfriends. But probably in the last 5 years or so, I finally had some girlfriends. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of fun. I missed having girlfriends. And she's talking about nobody has to control the schedule. Nobody has to like be the boss. I wonder if that's like a dig at Meri. All right, so it shows them back at the hotel, and they now have popped some champagne. Kody would be so jealous because he didn't get the champagne to be popped on Kody Pass with Justin, but they're popping champagne. And you never notice Kody and Robyn with friends. I think they're just stuck in their house and they just feed each other's egos like, you're great. No, you're great. It's not your fault. It's not your fault either. That just goes on all day long. Her friends ask her, how do you like living in North Carolina? And she says, honestly, like the idea that I'm going to live in a house like that, I don't have to move. I don't have to worry about moving. Kody always was like, we got to move. How exhausting I think it was. And I realize now that life was always so overwhelming when the whole time I was with him and living in constant chaos. It's so exhausting. When he turned 50, he changed, and he also started making all this noise about carrying the whole family. And I think he had this wife who was just his soulmate or whatever. And he says, I'm not doing this. It's just too exhausting. You don't ever see Caleb or Mitch or anybody saying, oh, I'm done. You guys just figure it out. It's just too much responsibility. You don't see that. And here's Kody with all this family. And he's like, I don't know, like I'm tired of carrying the burden. It's aging me. Like, I don't think you really say that when you have a family. Kody says, I never shirked my responsibilities ever in this family. I was there. I was always there. And I gave 100%, 110% every time. I felt like I wasn't getting that from the rest of the family. I got 3 ex-wives. They're going, Kody change, Kody change, Kody change. All right, I guess we all went through menopause together because there's such a thing as male menopause. And my testosterone probably just fell to the floor. I just didn't want to do the hard work anymore. So which is it? You started out saying you gave 110% all the time, every time. And now you're saying, I just didn't want to do the hard work anymore because my testosterone dropped. So pick one. And if 3 women say you've changed, maybe they might know what they're talking about. Kody says for the 11 billionth time, the selling of Kody Pass is a form of closure. We're all separated. It's done. Everybody's moving on. I would really like to move myself from a place of blaming, and I would like everybody to stop blaming me. That's exhausting. They're back at Kody and Robyn's house, and he says, I've been thinking. And Robyn says, you've been thinking? And Kody says, yeah, I've been struggling with some old relationships, and they haven't been improving, getting better, or even having any interaction. I'm wondering if you think that getting a good therapist would help me in figuring out, sort of getting around some of my issues with my kids, my older kids, and trying to get to a place where I'm comfortable communicating with them. And I feel like this is just checking off another box. TLC asked fans, they did put out a survey, and I think the results of that survey said they asked them, what do you want to see? And on that list was for Kody to get dance lessons. Check. For Kody to get another wife. They've addressed that like 4 times now with pinky promises and everything. They wanted them to all get together on Kody Pass and look at each other. Well, check. And now they're saying Kody needs to go to therapy. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I feel like this is just TLC checking off another box of what would make this show do well. So Kody's washing dishes and he is scrubbing that pan. Like you can barely hear him over him scrubbing the eggs off that pan. And Robyn is shredding cheese on a box cheese grater. Everybody was saying she's holding it wrong. She's holding it wrong. And I was like, she's holding it the same way I hold it. And so I went and looked it up. And she is holding it wrong, and I'm holding it wrong, and you're probably holding it wrong, but you're supposed to lay that cheese grater on its side and grate the cheese with it laying flat on the table. And that does make sense. It would hold all the cheese in it. It would be less work, like you don't have to use both hands as much. So we learn something new every day. I've been doing it wrong the whole time. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And Robyn says, I think that's a great idea. Kody says, I got to work on me because I'm angry about what a lot of the kids have said and done and believed. But I also got to have the tools to be able to engage a relationship, putting my feelings aside and inviting them to step into a space where I can communicate safely and lovingly. He says, have you ever been in a spot like where you just didn't want to talk to anybody anymore? Robyn says, like a person? He says, yeah. She says, yeah, definitely. But I continue to try. He says, you do? She says, yes, I do it anyway. Even when it's hard, I do it if the relationship is of value to me. When you talk about family, it's like, I think it deserves more shots. I think there's more hurt feelings and misunderstandings and some influencing that's been happening, some pretty intense influencing. And she looks at the ceiling and she squints her eyes and she starts fiddling with her hair. Dr. Adams says when she does that, she's either gaslighting or she's lying. So she's basically saying it's not all Kody's fault that these kids have been influenced. She says, I feel like it's so important for your kids to have a relationship with you and for you to have one with them and for them to have one with me. I don't think parents actually completely realize how much little things they say actually influence the way their children think about the other parents. And she says that it's important for them to have a relationship with me. I don't know. That might be a deal breaker there, Robyn. You might need to cut your losses there. Y'all ever feel like maybe if Robyn disappeared that Kody would have a relationship with his kids? Shake your head with me. Yep. Adding her in the mix is probably a deal breaker. And she said, in plural marriage, dad's not around the same amount as mom. So she's saying the mom influences them. And Christine says, I am just so exhausted and so tired of being blamed for how his kids feel about him. It's his responsibility and not mine. That's true. Everybody but Truly is an adult. So yeah, Kody's 100% responsible now. And Janelle says, look, I wish I had a lot of influence on my adult children. Boy, things would be really different. Kody says, I've reached out to every one of my children and multiple times, and if they don't have a relationship with me, it's because they're not reciprocating. And I don't know how many times he's reached out, but Robyn says you have to keep giving it another shot, which is true. Robyn says, no matter what any of them say, there will always be a Kody-sized hole in their hearts if you're not there. And Kody turns around and looks at her. Y'all notice, if you're watching the YouTube videos, my lights went out. And that's because I have set them to go off at 11 o'clock at night. So I will stop doing whatever I'm doing and go to bed. Because I've gotten to this podcast so much that I have to do something or I will be in here till 1 or 2 in the morning. So when you see while I'm talking and all my lights go out, all my pretty purple and blue lights, they go out, that means that I'm supposed to be stopping and going to bed. But I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. You can't tell me what to do. So it goes back to Janelle. Janelle says, my girlfriends all have a plan that I'm going to meet somebody. I just don't think it's reality. Like, that's not real. And she says, my kids are kind of like waiting for me to start dating. And she says, for the last couple of years, it's been a hard no. And now it's kind of like, maybe. The farm is my passion, but I do need to have a life away from it, trying to get involved in some of the classes and stuff in the community. And they asked her if she's going to start doing Pilates again. She says, maybe. They said, what you need to do is go to the hardware store and meet a guy, or the farm and tractor store, or the farm supply store. You need to go over there. And one of her friends says, well, I can tell you right now, this new guy is not allowed to wear a visor. And then it cuts over every time that Kody has worn a visor, and it just looks so ridiculous with his 2 little tendrils hanging off the top of them. She says one of her friends thinks that the visor's real funny. She just thinks it's so funny. She makes a lot of references to it. She says, my friends don't really pull any punches when it comes to their opinions of Kody. They start talking about what she would like in a man. And she says, before Kody, I really did like dark-haired guys, but I ended up going with Kody. One friend says, There has to be a minimum height requirement. I mean, even roller coasters have that. That is funny. And she says, at least a little taller than me. Because she says, I'm like 5'5". A little taller than that would be good. They said, what about body type? She says, I need a man stocky enough to handle life and someone who values family. And I think what she means by stocky enough to handle life is a guy that's not 100% concerned about his looks and is just built to handle life, to do hard tasks. And she says someone who values family. I think family for sure. Maybe someone who has kids and grandkids like David. It's good because Christine had a big family and I have a big family. She says, I think this impulsive trip has turned out to be a very good thing. It's been a good thing. Well, I've actually realized now that there's one more thing I need to do to cut that tie with Kody, like completely cut that tie. And I need to have that spiritual release, which I've always thought that because she really believed in polygamy and the religion aspect of it. She was 100% all in. So she does need a spiritual release. She says, like, there's still some sort of psychic bond with Kody. So I just want to cut that. I mean, I treated my marriage as if it was the same as legal marriage. It was to me. And they said, well, is it just a woman that has to ask for a spiritual release? Janelle says, no, the men can do it also. He could have got one too if he wanted it. He could have initiated it, but he doesn't want to be the one to make that decision. They're usually a lot harder on the men because they'll go like, what the hell's wrong with you? So that's usually why men don't go. Friend says, yeah, they'll look at him and say, you're here again? You're like a frequent flyer. Maybe you can get a BOGO on that release ceremony. Buy one, get one free. They're so funny. And Robyn says it hasn't been one divorce, it's been 3, and that's a lot to take to your self-confidence. The fact that Kody is still functioning as well as he is a freaking miracle considering what has been dumped on top of his head. Kody says, there's a phrase I heard, the knife of the father is never out of the heart of his children. And Robyn says, that's what my point is. Kody says, that breaks my heart. And he starts to cry, like genuinely cry. He's got tears and everything. And you think he's crying because he's sad about his kids. But no, that's not why he's crying. He says, I wish so badly that I could fix things with my own dad while he was alive. I told Grandma Cheryl once, I said, what would I do just to sit down and have a couple of beers with my dad? And she just looked at me and said, I think he would have really liked that. He says, but I got to have a beer with Garrison the last time we ate together. Robyn says, I'm sure that was a sweet memory for him. And it kind of irks me a little bit. He keeps talking about wanting to have a beer with Garrison. You think he would be a little bit more tactful? Garrison did have some issues with drinking, so it's not very tactful that he keeps talking about wanting to have a beer with Garrison. She says, when I see Kody being rejected by his kids, I see myself, my dad. Paul married my mom when I was about 9 years old, while my dad, Paul, was absolutely wonderful to me. While I was angry and did reject my biological father for years, I do understand how much I needed him and would still love to have him in my life and in my kids' life. I look like him. I look like my biological father. I look like him more than my mom. This has been a really, really complicated, hard situation, probably for them to understand. It's been very confusing. Kody says, I'm sure because I said a lot of mean things about their mothers is part of the problem. And Robyn says, yeah, that wasn't good. And Kody says, no, that was a road I should have never gone down. And Robyn says that Coyote Pass is being wrapped up is really a positive thing. When you have nothing to fight over, then that kind of takes the wind out of your sails. She says, I don't have a voice with Janelle or Meri or Christine, but I do with Kody. And she says, I need you to find yourself again because you've lost that good man that I married. And so here's a few things about that. Robyn says, I need him and would love to have him in my life and in my kids' life. And the thing about Robyn is if her father called her up and said, let me come talk to you, what are the chances she would say something to the effect of, that's not safe and that would be too toxic and that wouldn't be good. I just don't feel like putting us in a room together is a good idea. What are the chances she would say that? Is she really open to relationship with her father? And why is she making this all about her? Like 100% about her. She goes, I look like him. I look like my biological father. I look like him more than I look like my mom. Nobody cares about that. She's making it all about her. Christine wanted to do a reunion, and you said, that's toxic. That wouldn't be safe. We shouldn't be doing that. She says things like they need to have a relationship with me, but when you pull up on Kody Pass an hour late and get upset because nobody's jumping out of their cars to come see you, and you don't have the initiative to get out of your own car and go talk to them, you don't want that. You don't want that. And stop saying you want that if you don't want that. She just wants everybody to beg and plead for her attention and forgiveness with her doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. She needs to be going up in therapy with Kody. And then it goes to next time on, and he's talking to Robyn, and he says, I want to set him free. And Robyn says, how are you going to do that? And Kody says, I just need to go and apologize. And Christine says, he wants to extend an olive branch. I need to know what that motive is. Meri says, Ron is in town and I can't help but smile. I met Ron at a speed dating event. I am so happy right now. You remember Ron. He was the one that she actually kind of did well with. Kody says, I love that this is my journey. My hope is for them to receive it. And he's saying to Janelle, well, I just wanted to come and say that I apologize. And Janelle says, wow. And Christine says, I don't have a lot of trust with Kody. I'm walking to an environment where trust has been killed. And Kody walks in the room, and her and David are sitting at this massive table. There couldn't be more room between them if you tried. Kody says, suck those beers down because I got some fun stuff to share with you. And Christine says, oh my God, now I'm nervous. And she says, as far as extending an olive branch, I think there will be hidden barbs in there. It shows him telling Christine, I apologize. Here's the huge one. I apologize for saying I didn't love you. And Christine said, this is my husband here. Why do you think this is appropriate? And Meri says, so I'm having a conversation tomorrow with Kody. I get a little bit nervous thinking that could go really, really wrong. And then Kody says to her, apology is so needed here because this is so toxic. And Meri kind of holds him to the fire and says, do you apologize that you were toxic to me? What are you apologizing for? She says, his energy is messing with my energy. And he says, well, I apologize that I didn't. And Meri says, you got to stop saying the word apologize. The more you use it, the more it feels insincere. She's trying to say, what you can't just say, I apologize. You got to say what you're apologizing for it to mean anything. Because you say, I'm sorry. You could just be saying, I'm sorry you're mad. You need to tell her what your apology's for. And Kody is throwing Janelle under the bus again, saying, we were having some agreement problems. Janelle was trying to make a backdoor deal. Meri doesn't even need to know, but she's going to know. And then it shows they're at a tell-all, and Meri says, I think Kody and Janelle were trying to kick me out. They have no problem cutting me out. And Robyn's sitting on the couch crying and saying, I do not agree with things that he does. I do not agree with his attitude. They're saying to Christine that he regrets that he didn't say sorry for saying that you were not attractive. And she said, that makes me mad. If he ever says that to me, I will become unglued. And he was a total asshat for that. He wrote in his book and everything that Christine was eating nachos, and it totally turned him off. Here's this chubby girl, and then he didn't want anything to do with her after that. Who says that about their wife? And I love nachos. Jesus, I'm getting tired. Anyway, and Meri says that the whole thing was about silencing me. So when they say Meri was stopping it, damn right I was stopping it. And Kody is screaming at the camera, if one wife tells you another wife's having an affair, that is my business. And I don't know what that's about, but I think that's ultimately going to be Robyn telling Kody that Meri's having an affair, even though Robyn and her friend Kendra were 100% in on that, and we'll discuss that later. Anyway, so that's all that's coming up this season. I doubt that stuff that's coming up on the next episode. I think they're still extending way past. And so this is the part of my podcast where I come up with a tell-all question. It would be for everybody. And my question is, you're going along with this whole storyline of Janelle wanted to steal money from Meri, or was trying to do a backdoor deal with Kody to steal money from Meri. And there's not much evidence to this. Do you remember when Janelle went to Meri's house and said, you need to pay attention to what's going on here because your name is only on 1/16 of all of this land, and I don't think they're going to do you right. And Meri did it, Janelle, so wrong and said, yeah, I don't think they would cheat me. They wouldn't cheat me. they're not going to cheat me. Why would I need a lawyer? Janelle's like, I'm trying to warn you. And Meri wasn't paying any attention to Janelle. Just because of that, I don't think Janelle had any intention of screwing over Meri. I don't know the details of who signed what or who was holding out, but I do know that there are court documents saying that 3 of them had signed papers agreeing to the division of land in January, and Robyn didn't sign until March. Robyn was the last one to sign papers. I think this is a storyline trying to just add some spice in there, like making it look like Janelle was trying to screw Meri. Because when Kody said, I got on the phone with Janelle and I was talking about doing a backdoor deal and just leaving these other 2 ladies out. He's talking about Robyn and he's talking about Meri. I think Robyn wanted Meri to sign an NDA and she wouldn't sign it. So Robyn wasn't going to sign for the place to be sold. And so Janelle got so dang frustrated. She was like, just sell the damn land. Just sell it. I think she would have made sure that Meri would have gotten her share. I don't think that Janelle had any ill intentions toward Meri. So when we go to this tell-all and Meri's all upset because they wanted to do a backdoor deal, I don't think it was malicious as all that. Janelle was so done, and she's got grandbabies, and she's got Tata Farms, and she's got a whole nother life, and she is so tired of these people, all this bickering back and forth, because she was scared that deal was about to fall apart, and she needed that money because she was more worried about her family than the rest of these crazy people. So I think that's what that was. But that's the end of that episode, and I appreciate you joining me, and I'll see you next time.
That's it for today. If you like my podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to reach me, you can always reach me at redflagrewatch@gmail.com. Thank you for joining me today. See you next time.
Diarrhea is hereditary. It runs in your genes. One more time. Diarrhea is hereditary. It runs in your genes. What do you call a pig that practices karate? A pork chop. What do you call a pig that practices karate? A pork chop. You're welcome. All right. See you next time.